Welcome to the Morning Scoop. It is Wednesday. My name is Phil. I will be producing today's podcast. I am joined by longtime Ohio State insider Nevadabuck for a conversation to discuss Ohio State's victory over Michigan State as we look forward to the bye week and come into the second half of this season. Again, I remind you, please subscribe to Buckeye Scoop. Check out our community online at buckeyescoop.com. All of your support helps us to develop new and exciting content for you. So please go subscribe, give us a like, and please enjoy today's conversation with Nevadabuck. Welcome to the Buckeye Scoop. My name is Phil. I'm joined by longtime Ohio State insider Nevadabuck for a conversation about really the continued dominance of this Ohio State team. So I guess right off the bat, another big victory, 49-20, and Marvin Harrison Jr., again, another one of those performances. Remind me a little bit of his performance in the Rose Bowl last year, pulling in 3 touchdowns. I mean, is this guy going to be... It's been quite a run of receivers, but does he have the potential to be the best one that's ever come out of Ohio State?
Well, he certainly does. And, I think last year it was interesting listening to Olave and Wilson talk so glowingly about Jackson Smith and Jigba. And they were like, hey, this kid's going to be better than either one of us. And I think everybody kind of rolled their eyes. But, then after the Rose Bowl performance, they're like, hey, maybe they were telling the truth. Well, I think the same thing's true about Marvin Harrison. I mean, since the minute he set foot on campus, the upperclassmen could not have been more impressed with this guy. And he's got everything that you want in a wide receiver. Plus, he's big. He's got that big catch radius. He's just so serious about his craft, and always the last guy to leave the field, taking extra reps with the jugs gun, and studying defensive backs and their tendencies, and really improving on his route running. And boy, if I'm buying a stock, I'm buying Marvin Harrison stock because I think it's going straight up. And I think as good as he's been, I don't even think we've seen 50-60% about how good he's going to be. And yeah, I know he may leave here the best that there's ever been to play the position, and it couldn't happen to a better kid.
Well, I'm buying that stock too, and it's pretty crazy because obviously JSN, you have him going to the NFL next year. You might have Emeka and Marvin Harrison Jr. as they become eligible. I was looking at the NFL, the leading receivers for receiving yards, and one of the funnier ones in the top 40 was actually Noah Brown, right? So Michael Thomas, who's been a little nicked up, was actually not in that list. So we have quite a group, already a handful of guys that are in the top 40 in receiving yards. You start adding in, some of these younger guys at Ohio State popping to the NFL in the next few years. There are going to be a lot of very talented wide receivers from Ohio State playing in the NFL. So on that note, I guess staying on the offensive side of the ball, it's pretty funny because obviously there was a change with Justin Fry coming in with the offensive line and some negative talk about Stud and his recruiting in the past. But, it's hard to be too negative when you look at this O-line. I mean, it's really a pretty incredible group out there. And, DeJuan Jones also, he wasn't a 5-star recruit. So it's not like it was just 5-star guys. It was some top talent he recruited, some guys he developed. It was a nice group behind them. I mean, do you think this is the best O-line that we've seen, I guess, in sort of like the modern college football playoff era?
Well, I think it is, and what makes it especially of note to me is you got to remember they lost Nick Petit-Frere and Thayer Munford to the NFL last year. So and those two guys are starting on NFL teams.
Yeah.
So you can lose 2 guys that are starters to NFL teams and then roll back with one of the best. I mean, it's certainly a discussion of maybe the best offensive line in school history. At some point, we have to recognize that the guy that was here before did an incredible job in terms of filling the room with players, because that's quite an accomplishment, and by any measure. And again, that's taking nothing away from the job that Justin Fry's done, or for Kevin Wilson, or the scheme that Ryan Day's been at, which I really think has a lot to do with the success. But I mean, my goodness, I mean, you lose two guys in the NFL, generally you're going to take a step back to the offensive line, and these guys have not taken a step back. If anything, they've taken a step forward. And like I said, the future is bright because I like the guys behind him as well. I think there's a lot of dudes in that offensive line room, and I think Ohio State's set on the offensive line for years to come.
So that brings up an interesting point. If you think about this offensive line and how they've carved lanes for the running backs and done a great job protecting the quarterback, for whatever reason, it seems like our running back room can't stay healthy. And to be honest, I was a little bit surprised that Xavier Johnson was getting in early at running back. To me, I was thinking about, hey, Chip, here's a guy that came in from Arizona State. He was a really good running back already, out in the Pac-12, comes to Ohio State, moves over to linebacker. I was thinking he might get some carries, but I don't know. At this point, they still haven't really found a role from him outside of special teams. Do you think there is a chance for him to play this year? And I guess what are your general thoughts on Chip and his future at Ohio State?
Well, I mean, they're clearly trying to do things with them by the virtue of the fact that they've got him back there returning kicks. So they're really trying to find a role for him. They've got him on special teams. You've got another former running back, Steele Chambers, who's balling out at linebacker right now, and now you've got Chip there. Do I think he should be in the running back room? Yeah, that's where I'd put him. Now Mayan's coming back shortly. Trey. There's no bigger Trey Henderson fan in the world than I am, but, even I'm saying, look, he's got to finish some of these games off, especially, when we need him. But I thought he ran terrific. I thought he runs so violently, and,
Yes.
he's such a tightly wound athlete. I understand why he's getting those injuries, but he's just got to find a way to keep himself in games going forward. But boy, he was terrific on Saturday. And, like I said, the running back room is pretty stacked when you got those guys. But then when you get past Mayan and Dallin's a nice kid, but I think he's just a guy. And Xavier, I mean, my goodness, he was the savior of the Notre Dame game, catching a pass, and now he's out there running. It was kind of weird to see it, but Ohio State's really kind of in a position right now where they've got to do some things, and I think Chip to running back would make an awful lot of sense. It's just really a question of, does Chip want to do that? I mean, I think Chip came here to Ohio State to play linebacker. He could have stayed at Arizona State and been a running back, but he wanted to come here because he thinks his NFL career and his NFL future is on the defensive side of the ball. So it's really kind of a delicate dance. How do you do that to a kid who wants to come here, wants to play linebacker? How do you put him to the running back room, especially to be the third guy or the fourth guy? So it's a good idea. I like the idea. I'm just not sure if it's practical.
That's a really good point, and we actually talked a little bit about that in the post-game show, that this is a guy that really bet on himself, right? He had a path at in the running back spot to potentially get to the NFL, but linebacker, something new, and yeah, it would be a little strange putting him back there at running back when he's kind of pushed all his chips into the center of the table to play linebacker at Ohio State. What do you think about the idea of potentially playing like a two-back set sometimes? It's sort of with this offense, it's kind of like damned if you do, damned if you don't, because, we're always like throw more to the tight end, but every time we're sort of picking one of these skill guys, we're taking away, footballs from someone else, and they just have so much talent that it becomes a little bit tricky. But thoughts on a potential two-back set?
Well, I think as an Ohio State fans, you're going to see it. Ohio State's been playing with it. They've been playing with it for several weeks right now. I've been saying with Mayan and Trey, that's one of the ways to keep them both engaged, keep them both involved in the game, and use them in creative ways, a la the way the Packers use A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones. But you're going to see that. This is going to move from theory and a Nevadabuck and feel good idea to you're going to see it on the field. And when you do, remember we talked about it. But I think the two-back set is going to be something that Ohio State's going to roll out, and it's going to be fun to watch because I think both those guys are not only NFL players but like elite NFL running backs, and to have them both on the field in college is really going to present some unique challenges for the defense.
Is this the best chance to win a national championship that Ohio State has had in a number of years? And personally, my response, I actually said that today I probably would lean towards the 2019 team beating this team head to head, but it would be very close, and I could be very wrong. However, there's no LSU this year. You've seen a little bit of the struggles from Alabama and Georgia. A lot of teams, kind of playing down to opponents, and it seems like it's sort of wide open outside of Ohio State, who's been pretty dominant so far. So, would you say that this is the best chance we've had to win the national championship in the college football playoff era?
Well, I think you got to look at a number of things. You got to look at schedule. You couldn't ask for a much more favorable schedule all the way through the Big Ten championship game, where the other side of the conference is down. I think we've got a clear path to the playoff, which really that's the first step. Secondly, you need to have a veteran quarterback. You need to be veteran skill positions. We've got all that. You need to have a defense that's just suitable, just reasonable enough to make the occasional stop. We certainly have that. And then you need to have a prolific offense. And, I think we check all the boxes. And as you noted, there's not another team that's out there that's super scary. And I think this could be the year that some great, the horse team's going to kind of stalks their way into the playoff, because, the usual four, the Clemson, Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, four, I think somebody's going to break into the party. It might be somebody like UCLA or somebody ridiculous that comes out of nowhere, grabs one of those spots. But I think it's going to be it's been a crazy year in college football. I think the craziness will continue. But when we keep looking around for who's the power team, who's the boogeyman, who's the scary team, well, we're the boogeyman. We're the scary team. We're the LSU of 2019. So I think we're the team that's going to do it, and I think we're the other team that's going to give other teams nightmares, and I think that's going to continue all the way into the national championship.
Well, that puts a smile on my face just thinking about that. So I guess with that, let's flip over to, look, not a lot of negatives. We keep blowing out teams, but there are a few concerns, especially when you go on the defensive side. It's the play of the defensive back. So we had, some issues with Denzel Burke, the last few weeks, and now Cameron Brown had a rough go at it. What is going on there? Because these guys, they have a lot of great play in their pass. Is this just something that they need to work through, or do you think it might even be coaching? I know they have a new coach this year, scheme. I guess, what do you diagnose as sort of the issue with the defensive back play thus far?
Well, I just think that you're in a situation right now where you've had some guys that have been nicked up, that have been battling some injuries, working through a new scheme. We're kind of thin on bodies, and I think people hate to hear stuff like this, but I think the reality is we've had some bad luck too. We've lost, a lot of those balls that we're losing on these contested balls are 50-50s, and we're just not winning the 50-50 balls right now. And I think that's going to be a point of emphasis for the defensive back coaching staff through the second half of the season. And some of that's just bad luck. It's a really small sample size when you only have 8, 10, 12, 14, kind of deep shots or something like that, and you lose a few, then it can make you look a lot worse than you are. I really think that Ohio State's defensive backs they're not as bad as people think they've been. I think they've been a little injured. I think the bye week's going to do them a lot of good. But again, we go back to what we're talking about before. There's no real scary passing team out there. There's no elite quarterback that's got the wide receivers and the passing attack that would really confound Ohio State. So I think everything's kind of setting up. I think our defensive backs are good enough, and they're only going to get better as the year goes on. So I'm actually optimistic about that position picking up for the second half of the season.
Yeah, Ryan Day actually shared a fairly similar sentiment. He's like, it's one thing, if these guys are getting beat by 5 yards, we know we have like a real problem. But they're right there. They're not making the play, right? Which is, to me at least, that seems a lot more correctable than, if the guy's slow and he's 5 yards behind the receiver, then we might have a real problem there. So I agree. And so kind of building on the point you made about the competition and their throwing game, there's a big one this weekend. So we got Michigan playing Penn State. So Penn State had that big victory over Auburn, which at the time was very impressive. It's looking less and less impressive by the day. Michigan, which started out with I think maybe the worst schedule in America in the first few games, has flipped over, played some Big Ten competition, not looking the same. So it makes it a little more tricky to pick this game, but if I, gun to your head, Penn State, Michigan, who are you picking in that game and why?
I'm picking Penn State. I don't think this Michigan team is very good. I know that's probably going to come as a shock to some people. I think some people they're kind of overvaluing Michigan. I think they're remembering the Michigan team from last year, and I just don't think this Michigan team's that good. And I think, as you said, combination of a favorable schedule and playing some really bad teams, and I think that the environment's going to be challenging for them, and I think Penn State's going to get them. I really do. So mark that down. I'm not even sure what the betting line is. I haven't even looked at the betting line on the game, but I've got Penn State winning the game. I won't say it'll be comfortable. I think it'll be close, but I think Penn State in the end gets it done.
I'm with you. I think it's going to be a really close one. I wish that one was in Happy Valley, but I think it'll be a close Penn State victory, and we will we'll be in the final stretch here with Michigan having one loss, and hopefully we can just rub it in when they come down to Columbus at the end of this year. So one other thing, Bill Greene had a great article and some insider comments that he posted inside a Buckeye Scoop related to some of the recruitment, particularly along the D line. You have Matayo, Keeley, and Wilson. These are guys that Larry Johnson's been after. Are you souring on our chances with them? Because it was, I guess, like a little bit quiet for a while. It seemed like we had a lot of momentum, especially Keeley was coming to Ohio State. He met LeBron at the beginning of the year. Have we lost some momentum there, or is this still flip a coin and we'll see where things end up?
I think it's still flip a coin. I think these recruitments kind of ebb and flow like this. It's kind of punch counter punch, and I think that the chance that Ohio State had for a knockout on Keeley was if they could have got him to cancel the Alabama visit after the second visit from him. But no, I think what you've got is you've got 3 jump balls, and the question is Ohio State gonna it's like you're calling a coin heads or tails 3 times in a row. Sometimes you miss, sometimes you get all 3, sometimes you might just get one. I'm not sure which way it's going to come down. I don't think anybody really knows which way it's going to come down. And that's why I think all the analysts, all the people, everybody's kind of hedging because nobody really knows. And the one thing that I've learned anything in these defensive line, situations is I wouldn't bet against Larry Johnson. I mean, Larry Johnson's history of putting guys in the league, turning guys into first-round picks, and creating generational wealth for their family. I mean, if I had a kid and I had one coach, to coach him, and he was a defensive lineman, it'd be Larry Johnson because it's just a good bet. And
same here.
So I like our chances with all 3 for that very reason, because I think people are rational. And at the end, there's Keeley committed to Notre Dame for a reason. He went there because he was looking for a Notre Dame type of experience. And I just think that Ohio State's a lot closer to that than Alabama. I'm still optimistic on all 3, but I reserve the right to change my mind. But I think we're in it to the end with all 3, and we'll see how it breaks.
Well, if you're interested in recruitment, I would strongly encourage you to subscribe to BuckeyeScoop.com. I promise you, if there are updates related to those recruitments, you will get it there first before anywhere else. So that's all we have for today. Nevadabuck, it's been great speaking with you. Also, guys, let me know in the comments how I did saying Nevada. They're giving me a hard time last week. I was saying Nevada. So hopefully I've improved, and I can continue on this same kind of trajectory we're seeing with Ohio State. But thank you so much, Nevada. It's great speaking with you, and look forward to our bye week and catching up with you in the near future. Thanks.
Thank you.